Hello and welcome to Trial Revisited from Hyde Fundraisers. Now, of course, this year the group have been affected by the pandemic, as we all have, and hasn't been able to raise charity funds in the normal way. So we've got instead some rather special online features for you. Just to think, I once used to play a virus. I remember I had to wash my hands very, very carefully afterwards, but there we are. Now, in this first episode, we learn how the trial of Davros came into being in the first place, back in the early 1990s. And here's Kevin to tell us some more.
Thank you very much, John. Yes, so Trial of Davros. The idea came about when Hyde Fundraisers were doing an event in Longleat, and we come up with an idea to do a convention for the 30th anniversary. A lot of people were doing events at that time, but Nigel Peaver, who was with us, suggested we should do something different. We should do something theatrical. We should maybe make Doctor Who do a live performance. So there was some discussion about how this would work quite naturally. Nigel had some ideas that we realised that we couldn't possibly get one of the actors from Doctor Who to be in the show. So the next best thing Nigel suggested was maybe Daleks, and as a lead into the Daleks, Davros maybe. So with these elements, and the format agreed, which was going to be some stage sequences supplemented by evidence, which would break up the amount that the actors would need to learn for the show. We started planning it. I put together scripts. I sent the scripts to Roger Hancock, Terry Nation's agent. We were very lucky to be given permission, and obviously would liaise with the BBC as well. And we started doing filming of the evidence sections, which some were in Stockport, around that area, including Robinson's Brewery, which doubled for a planet. We were on like a trading estate, filming with Daleks there, setting them on fire. And physically the Daleks we had been made by Andy Crombie.
So this is one of the original Daleks that we filmed for Remembrance 93 on the location. It was made by Andy Crombie, and he also made one that Nigel Peaver had. And as you can see, since it was made in the early 90s, it's in really good condition. This Dalek was also one of the ones used for the location filming of the Trial of Davros in 2005 as well, and you'll spot him probably on a couple of the shots, particularly where we did the filming inside Stapley Water Gardens. And it's quite nice that we've got the touch of one of the Daleks from 93 was in the 2005 production.
And we filmed at Stapley Water Gardens for Spyridon. We were in Quarries as well, filming in Quarries 2. It was quite a hectic thing to get done in the timescale that we had, but essentially the division of responsibility where Nigel did the filming of the evidence. He also created costumes and various props that we may need. The only thing he didn't make actually was the Davros chair and the Davros mask, because those came courtesy of Alistair Locke. We did those evidence filming sequences with various members of Hyde Fundraisers and some of Nigel's friends involved. So I think the one that sticks out for me was a special model shot we did as well for Evil of the Daleks, because at the time we thought it'd be nice to show something different as well in that related to the series, as we had done with the Planet of the Daleks sequence. But then we needed to look ahead to the actual weekend of the event, and all the planning for a normal convention had to be done. So for Remembrance 93, the headline attraction was going to be our stage show, but we needed a really good group of support guests, which would also encourage people to attend and see the show, because obviously we need an audience there, and we needed to raise money for charity. So the guests we had lined up for that were Michael Jaston. We also had Deborah Watling. We'd had a discussion with Liz Slayton's agent, because Liz at the time hadn't done an event in the Northwest as far as I recall, so we spoke to Liz's agent in London and absolutely bowled over that Liz agreed to come down and be one of our headline guests, which would guarantee us definitely a lot of people coming to the event. So when it came to casting for the show, initially the idea was to get Terry Molloy as Davros. I wrote to Terry, explained what we were doing, sent him a script, and unfortunately he wasn't available at that point. So was to speak to Michael Wisher. I spoke to Michael and he said yes. Yeah, we were absolutely amazed, because I mean Michael started the character of Davros in Genesis of the Daleks, and at that time when he was doing that, I know Andy Wisher has his own memories of what was going on with Davros at the time with his dad back in the 70s.
Memories of my dad as Davros. I would have been about 8 when he did the filming. I don't have any memories of him actually filming it. I did get given a tour around the rehearsal studios and the special effects studios and the actual studio in BBC TV Centre. That was fascinating. I think I had a birthday tour of it with all my mates, and we all got a chance to have a go on the mics that produced the Dalek voices. So I don't think I actually saw my dad as Davros until it was broadcast, and that was great fun to see him do that. And I appreciated it more as I got older and watched the performance and just the interaction between himself and all the other actors involved. Yeah, it was good fun to watch. I do have a memory at the time that he was working with Tom Baker, where they'd gone out for a drink, and I'd obviously know who the Doctor was. It was Tom Baker, but he was the Doctor. And I came back from my friend's house, and there was Tom Baker sitting in our front room, having a beer with Dad. So that was yeah, that was unusual. But yeah, those are my memories of Dad playing Davros.
Talking back to the cast again, so me and Michael discussed script elements, and he wanted to introduce Nyder again, and he wrote a special Khaled directive that Nyder could perform. So there was contact with Peter Miles, and before we knew it, Nyder was going to be in the Trial of Davros with Michael Wisher. And again, fantastic combination, what a double act. So for the casting for the show, we had, from our side, I dealt with the organisation for Peter Miles and Michael. Nigel assembled the rest of the cast, which included Gene Rogers, who had been a very popular character in Emmerdale Farm, it might have been at the time.
It was Nigel Peaver who persuaded me to be in the play. I'd worked with Nigel in pantomime. We'd been in Aladdin together at the Opera House at Wakefield, and he played the dastardly Abanazar and I was Aladdin. Oh, I love playing Aladdin. I played him a couple of times. He was such a naughty boy. The Trial of Davros, wow. How exciting was that, to be given the chance to play the Inquisitor. And the costume, that wonderful long white gown, and the hat, the headdress. I don't know if you remember, but it was so wide and not that easy to balance on your head and not topple it over. So it took a little while to kind of get used to it and wear it properly. But certainly when you did, it gave you that feeling of command and being in charge. The other situation that I remember very much from that time was that I met up with Michael Jaston at that convention. I'd been in drama school with Michael, the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and we'd played in Jane Eyre. I was Jane Eyre, he was Rochester, and also in another play where I was Lucretia de Borgia, and I hadn't seen him for a number of years, so it was really a lovely surprise to see him again and talk with him. I think the time before we'd met in the reception area at Emmerdale when I was playing Dolly in Emmerdale, and he was there at YTV for another occasion, so it was fun to see him.
So as Jean says there, yes, it was Nigel that got her involved in the show, and Nigel also cast Keith Noble as the first prosecutor. He also cast Stuart Glazebrook as Prosecutor 2, and he was involved obviously with the show as well because he directed the production. We needed a glue to keep it all going, and keeping all the concept together was Nigel, to monitor on performance and organise the rehearsals. The school we used for rehearsing when the cast came up a few days prior was in Denton, and I remember checking in on one of the rehearsal days, and Michael Wisher was rehearsing in one of the Dalek bases, but it was an intense period to block and obviously direct the show because it was just a couple of days rehearsal prior to the weekend event, and that the pressure that obviously Nigel was under was so intense because he had so many things to juggle apart from the show and the evidence that we had to show on video screen as well at the hotel where we were hosting the event in Hyde, the Village Hotel. So yeah, a lot of challenges to get all that done in time. On the actual day of the performance, we were very lucky to get Michael Jaston to kick off the show during the opening narration, which was a version of Through the Millennia, the Time Lords of Gallifrey led a life of peace, which had been taken from Deadly Assassin, but obviously adjusted to reflect Daleks. And it was a really very busy weekend. We had a full house as far as we could do for the convention in the facility and the location and the rooms we had. The bar adjacent to the main room was used by Michael to change and to get into the chair. And then after the show, we had the very first joint Davros panel with Terry Malloy and Michael, because Terry quite late in the day was able to get across, so we still wanted Terry to come obviously, and Terry came across and joined us late in the day and was there with us for the weekend with our other guests, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. A lot of hard work, particularly as I said earlier with Nigel's contribution and what Nigel had to do, and we thought that was it. We'd raised over £1,000 for Children in Need.
Happy birthday, Hyde fundraisers from Nicholas Scorti, and it's your 20th birthday. Wonderful.
Ah, there you are. Happy 20th birthday to Hyde Fundraisers, and I'm saying it with flowers.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hyde Fundraisers. Happy birthday to you.
So, yes, Trial returned in 2005, and this came about because it was coming up to our anniversary for Hyde Fundraisers. We'd been going for 20 years at that point, and round about, I think it must have been very close to the time when Christopher Eccleston was announced coming back in the new series with Doctor Who, that we started all the pre-planning for trial, and obviously communicated with the various copyright holders, as we always did, and Julie Gardner, who was exec producer on the new Doctor Who, so that there was nothing we were going to do that was going to clash. And it just all seemed to time itself so perfectly together. Staging this on the year that Doctor Who was returning as well, and we were doing it this time in a proper theatre at Tameside Hippodrome in Ashton, which, as Hilton Collins will explain, sadly is no more.
So, this is where it all took place back in 2005. Sadly, a few years later, due to dwindling audiences and financial difficulties, the theatre was closed. Since then, there's been a scheme to revive the theatre, but sadly that amounted to nothing. A sad sign of the times.
So yes, very sad about the Hippodrome, but that was our venue back in 2005. Cast-wise, this time Terry was available, and he was going to be playing Davros, so we had to revisit the scripts and adjust it slightly.
Trial of Davros, what a project. Started way back in 93 with Michael Wisher, which I actually saw at one of the Hyde events. And then coming up to the 20th, the idea was to remount it. And I was approached and asked if I would like to take part, because it was fairly obvious that it was fairly necessary to have Davros involved in the Trial of Davros. And agreeing to that, you know, we got started on it, and it was a good year's, you know, hard work, I think, from everybody involved in getting the thing together.
Well, one, it was a good cause. It was a chance to work with Terry Molloy. He very kindly contacted me via my agent to say, do you want to be involved? And this is the reason why. It'd be great. Yeah, those were the reasons. It was great. Great fun.
Well, I first got involved because I got asked to direct a segment of the evidence involving the Planet of the Daleks section, which was about 2004, I think. I directed the sequence, and that was the end of it as far as I was concerned. And then about 3 weeks before it was due to be put on, I got a call saying, would you like to play the President of the Time Lords? An offer that you don't really turn down. I thought it would be good fun. It was for charity, and so yeah, I went and said yes. I got a script sent through about 3 weeks before, and it was all go from there.
Hi, I'm so pleased to be part of this fundraising initiative for children in need, because let's face it, with this pandemic, there are a lot of children in need. So anything we can do to encourage people to give to the fund will be the best thing in the world at this time of year.